Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are stripping away the buzzwords and looking directly at the actual machinery of product leadership.
Yeah, we're getting right into the gears today.
Exactly. We've been going through a really fascinating stack of materials from the Product and Academy, specifically focusing on their Product in 360 approach. And if you are a group product manager, or director, or a chief product officer listening to this cohort 3, basically, we are looking directly at you.
Right, because at that level, you are moving way beyond the day-to-day Scrum rituals. We are talking about the distinct difference between, running a backlog and running a business.
Yeah, and to kick this off, I want to start with a bit of a provocation. It's a challenge that really permeates the product and source material. And they specifically reference industry veteran Rich Mironov here.
Oh, the efficiency trap.
Precisely.
Right.
We are currently in an era where teams have arguably mastered how to build software. I mean, we have velocity, we have CI/CD pipelines, dual-track agile. We are shipping code faster than ever before.
And yet, if you look at the data, product failure rates haven't really budged.
Right. We've fallen into this efficiency trap. We're incredibly efficient at building things, but the concept Product Discover introduces here is product waste.
And that is a crucial distinction for senior leaders to grasp. When we talk about waste in, say, lean manufacturing terms, people usually think about unused code or pipeline bottlenecks.
Sure, operational stuff.
Exactly. But the product and definition is much sharper, and frankly, it's a lot more painful. Product waste isn't just about failed, seed stage startups. It is established, highly successful companies delivering work that creates absolutely zero customer or business value.
Yeah, building features that work perfectly, totally bug-free code.
But that nobody buys, or nobody uses, or that solve a problem nobody actually cares about.
That is the strategic gap we need to unpack today. The premise of this deep dive is that too many leaders in Cohort 3 are still acting like tactical executors. They're optimizing the factory floor while the actual business strategy just drifts.
They are managing tickets instead of managing assets. And when you operate that way, you miss the forest for the trees entirely.
So let's get into the core mental model that Producton uses to explain this shift. It's actually an agricultural metaphor, surprisingly. The wooden barrel.
Right, Liebig's law of the minimum. It's a foundational concept from agricultural science, but it applies perfectly to modern product management.
Walk us through it.
So imagine a wooden barrel made of vertical staves, those wooden planks that make up the sides. The capacity of that barrel, meaning how much water or value it can actually hold, is determined by what?
The shortest stave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can have 10 staves that are 6 feet tall, but if just one stave is only 6 inches tall, the liquid spills out at the 6-inch mark.
You literally cannot fill the barrel past that shortest point.
You can't. So if we translate this to a product portfolio, let's say your engineering team is absolutely world-class. That stave is 10 feet tall. You have the best code, the most scalable architecture, but your go-to-market stave is only 6 inches tall.
Then investing more budget into engineering is wasted capital.
Literally wasted. You are lengthening a stave that is already long enough. It creates zero additional yield, no additional value capture, because the water is still pouring out of the hole on the go-to-market side.
That is such a powerful visualization for resource allocation because it completely challenges the default instinct of most tech companies, which is usually, if we are struggling, just hire more engineers.
Which just creates a cycle of diminishing returns. The whole mission of the Product in 360 approach is to force leaders to stop staring exclusively at the development stave and look at the whole barrel.
Okay, so let's look at the whole barrel. In the Product in framework, this isn't just some abstract idea. They break it down into 6 specific dimensions of holistic product management. I want to walk through these because standard software product management books often treat these as silos.
Yeah, they treat product marketing or support as things that happen over there in another department.
Right, but Timo Wagenblatt from Product in XV argues that a product leader must act as the general manager of your product, Inc.
I really love that phrasing. General manager of your product, Inc.
It changes the whole mindset.
It does. And Timo pairs it with this mantra. He who pays the piper calls the tune. Now, that can sound like a bit of a power trip, but in this context, it's really about responsibility.
Accountability for the whole system.
Yes, it means if you are the GM, you are responsible for the resource allocation required to maximize yield. You don't get to just shrug and say, well, sales couldn't sell it. If sales can't sell it, that's a product problem. That is your short stave.
Okay, let's hit these 6 dimensions. Stave number 1, product viability.
This is the absolute bedrock. profitability, unit economics, business sustainability. If you are a CPO and you don't intimately know the unit economics of your product, your CAC versus your LTV, your gross margins, you aren't a general
Your
manager.
feature factory foreman.
It sounds harsh, but it's the truth.
Dimension number 2, product development.
Right. This is the execution engine.
Yeah.
Your strategy, roadmap, software quality. Most product managers spend, 90% of their time here.
Yeah.
But the product and 360 approach points out that this is just 1/6 of the holistic job.
Which leads to dimension 3, go-to-market and product marketing.
Positioning, sales enablement, the launch strategy itself. This is very often where the critical gap lies in highly technical organizations. You built the amazing feature, but you didn't equip the field team to actually sell it.
So the value is just trapped in the code.
Exactly. Trapped value.
Right, dimension 4. Now, this one really stood out to me because it's so rarely elevated to a top-tier dimension in other frameworks. Software demonstration and training. Why is this a standalone stave?
I was thrilled to see Product and highlight this, honestly. It is a silent killer of B2B SaaS products. Think about pre-sales enablement. How is the product actually shown to the world?
Right, the actual demo environment.
Yes. You can have brilliant code, but if the demo environment crashes during a pitch, or if the demo script doesn't clearly articulate the value proposition, the customer never sees the value.
They just see a broken tool.
Exactly. It's a short stave that absolutely kills deals, yet product teams often ignore it because they think, well, sales does the demos, that's their problem.
Which is a classic silo mentality. If the demo fails, your product failed, period. Let's move to dimension 5, the market and your customers.
This covers analyst relations, community building, establishing feedback loops. It's all about external validation and actively shaping the market narrative.
And finally, dimension 6, organizational maturity.
Governance, corporate culture, leadership vision. If your internal organization is chaotic, that acts as a limiting factor on your product's success just as much as a severe bug in your code would.
So the major shift for cohort 3, for anyone stepping into that director or CPO role, is you have to stop obsessing over the product development bucket exclusively. You have to step back, look at the entire barrel, and accurately identify your limiting stave.
Precisely. Sometimes the absolute most strategic thing you can do as a product leader is to tell your engineering team to slow down and instead route that budget into fixing your demo data or hiring a stellar product marketer. That is what holistic management actually looks like.
That's a great pivot point to the strategic differentiation discussion. We need to talk about sustainable success versus just a flash in the pan. There is a specific equation in the product and material that I found really compelling for this.
The sustainable growth one.
Yes, they define sustainable product growth as product market fit plus positive net growth.
It sounds deceptively simple on the surface, but let's really look at that second half, positive net growth.
Right, which brings us to the whole leaky bucket warning.
Yeah, you can have a brilliant acquisition motion, you can have a phenomenal optimized growth hack strategy, but if your churn rate is high, if your bucket is incredibly leaky, you do not have positive net growth.
You are literally just setting cash on fire to acquire users who immediately leave.
Exactly, and this connects directly to how we define the North Star metric.
Yes. The strategist in me always wants to ask, are we actually measuring the right thing? Product and strongly challenges the default idea that revenue or profit should be the North Star metric.
Which is pretty controversial for a general manager mindset, right? Usually GMs are hyper-focused on the P&L.
They are, but Product makes a crucial distinction here. They argue that revenue is a lagging indicator. It tells you what happened yesterday. A true North Star metric has to reflect growing the total value for users.
Because if you optimize purely for short-term financial extraction, say, by suddenly raising prices or forcing upgrades without adding any new value, you might hit your quarterly revenue target.
Sure, the spreadsheet looks great this quarter.
But you are severely eroding customer trust. You're not building any long-term defensibility. You are extracting value instead of creating it. And eventually, that bucket is going to leak faster than you can fill it.
Speaking of hard realities, the expert sources bring in some pretty inconvenient truths here, explicitly referencing Marty Kagan via the Product and Academy material. These are realities that I think senior leadership often forgets once they get too far away from the actual metal.
Oh, without a doubt. The first hard truth. At least half of your ideas are simply not going to work.
Let that sink in for a second. Half.
And that's if you're good. That's assuming you have a highly talented, competent team.
And the second truth I highlight, even the good ideas, the ones that do work, They take several iterations to actually deliver business value.
Right. And the strategic implication of that for a CPO is absolutely massive. It means that if your roadmap is just a rigid Gantt chart of features launching one after another with zero buffer built in for iteration.
You've basically built a plan that is statistically guaranteed to fail.
Exactly. You are betting the business on a 100% success rate on the very first try, which simply never happens in modern tech.
So a holistic strategy must inherently budget for discovery, for failure, and for refinement.
Precisely. If you aren't risk tackling early in the process, your P&L will bleed out long before you ever find product market fit. This isn't just about, being agile, it's about fundamental financial prudence.
This ties right into the concept of iterative refinement that the Product and Academy pushes. It's not just launch and forget. It's launch, measure, learn, refine. Project management celebrates the launch date. Product management celebrates the business outcome.
That's a great way to put it.
I want to go a bit deeper into the theory for a moment because this is where it gets really rich for Cohort 3. We talked about Liebig's Law, the shortest stave limiting the barrel, but the source material introduces a much more sophisticated nuance called Shelford's Law of Tolerance.
Yes, this is where we graduate from intro to biology to advanced ecology. Liebig implies a very linear fix. Just find the short stave and fix it. But Shelford's Law of Tolerance states that these factors actually act in concert.
Unpack that for us. How does that change a CPO strategy?
Well, Shelford implies that a deficit in one specific area creates systemic stress. And that stress might be partially compensated for by another factor, but only up to a certain breaking point.
Can you give me a real-world product example of that?
Sure. Let's say your organizational maturity dimension 6 is very low. Your internal governance is messy, stakeholder alignment is non-existent, decision-making is painfully slow.
Okay, a clear deficit, a short stave.
Right. But let's say you have absolute heroic engineering talent in your product development bucket. For a while, the sheer heroism and late nights of those engineers can compensate for the terrible management. The product still manages to ship.
But that is in no way sustainable.
Exactly. It works, but only within a specific tolerance range. Eventually, the systemic stress becomes way too high, those heroic engineers burn out and quit, and the entire system collapses.
So strategic success isn't just about trying to maximize every single metric to 100%. It's about finding the optimum range for each factor relative to the others.
Precisely. And this is the vital insight for Cohort 3. Over-investing in perfect code, trying to get that development stave to absolute perfection, when your market awareness is sitting at 0, is not just inefficient.
It's a fundamental strategic error in tolerance balancing.
Yes, you are optimizing a system that is fundamentally out of balance. You have to identify and manage the interactions between the staves, not just the staves in isolation.
That is a much more dynamic, complex way to look at a portfolio. It's an ecosystem, not a checklist.
It really is. And while we are on the topic of sophisticated concepts, I want to briefly touch on negative jobs. This comes from Clayton Christensen's Jobs to be Done theory, which product integrates into their readings.
Negative jobs. This is the idea that sometimes the customer's primary goal is actually avoidance, right?
Yes. The classic textbook example is, I don't want to see the doctor. A holistic product view identifies these invisible value drivers that a pure feature factory mindset completely misses.
Right, because if you are purely feature-focused, your solution to healthcare is to build a highly optimized find a doctor search tool.
Exactly. You make it easier to do the thing they hate. But a true product leader tries to solve the don't make me go to the doctor in the first place problem.
Which might lead to a completely different product, like an at-home diagnostic kit.
Exactly. A holistic view recognizes that immense value often comes from completely removing a step or preventing an interaction entirely. A feature factory just adds more buttons. A product strategist removes the friction.
I want to shift gears back to the go-to-market and customer staves for a minute, because there is a very substantial section in the source material about customer engagement and advocacy.
And this is critical for long-term defensibility. In a crowded tech market, feature sets almost always converge over time. Eventually, everyone builds the exact same features. So where does your actual defensibility come from?
The source material is very explicit here. It states that differentiation lies in the relationships they build.
Yes. It's about the customer advocacy pyramid. It's not just about customer support, which is inherently reactive, waiting for a ticket and fixing it. It's about proactively moving your user base from merely satisfied to advocate and eventually to champion.
But why should a CPO care deeply about that? Why isn't that just the marketing department's job?
Because highly engaged customers directly lower your customer acquisition cost. They provide the ultimate social proof, the peer references, the high analyst ratings, the community forums where they answer each other's questions.
Which reduces the burden on your support team, too.
Exactly. If you view your customer base holistically as a growth engine, you realize that investing product-led growth features into your community stave might actually have a significantly higher ROI than just buying more Google ads in your go-to-market stave.
That connects right back to the interconnected barrel. If your analyst relations are weak, your sales team has to work twice as hard to close a deal.
Everything is connected. The general manager sees that web of connections. The feature factory manager just sees a Jira backlog of user stories.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. The efficiency trap, the barrel metaphor, the 6 dimensions of the product in 360 approach, and the deeper nuance of tolerance ranges. Yeah. I want to bring this all down to the ground. If I am a product leader listening to this right now, what does true product thinking actually look like in my day-to-day?
It fundamentally changes the questions you ask in the room. Instead of asking your team, when will this specific feature ship, you start asking, what is the expected yield of this investment?
Right. Instead of asking, did we meet all the documented requirements, you ask, did we actually solve the customer's underlying problem?
The source material has a brilliant summary under its product thinking section. Product and recommends. Focus all thinking discovery, execution, and strategy on product success, not just product release.
That's the mantra right there. Product success, not product release.
It also heavily emphasizes that risks must be tackled early.
Yeah, you don't wait for the go-to-market phase to find out that the market simply doesn't care about what you built.
Exactly. You tackle that specific risk during discovery. You treat the market stave and the development stave as parallel tracks, never as sequential ones.
Because if you don't, that brings us right back to that terrifying statistic. 50% of your ideas will fail. If you know that to be true and you still build in a sequential waterfall method, you are basically being negligent.
You are, and you are actively creating product waste. You are eagerly filling a barrel that you know has a massive hole in the bottom.
Okay, let's wrap this up with a final thought for the Cohort 3 leaders listening. We've spent a lot of time talking about finding your shortest stave.
Right, and my direct challenge to the listener is this. Look at your product portfolio right now. Can you honestly identify your shortest stave?
Is it really your code quality? Or is it actually your team's inability to effectively demonstrate the software?
Is it your fundamental understanding of the unit economics?
And if you are strictly focused on shipping more features this quarter, you are highly likely optimizing a stave that is already plenty long enough. You are polishing the chrome on the engine while the tires are completely flat.
And your bucket is leaking tremendous value every single day because of it.
That is the core takeaway. You have to stop maximizing the individual parts and start optimizing the whole. Become the general manager of your product, Inc. But I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
If you magically fixed your shortest stave tomorrow, say you completely revamped your go-to-market motion overnight, would your organizational culture and incentive structures even allow that new water level to hold? Or are your teams so incentivized to just ship features that a new leak would spring instantly because cross-functional alignment isn't actually rewarded?
Oh, that's a tough question. Because if you don't fix the culture, the framework doesn't matter.
Exactly. If you want to scale this holistic mindset across your entire organization, because let's be honest, you absolutely cannot do this alone, you need to transform your product culture. The foundational material for today's deep dives comes from Product 10. They offer the exact frameworks to help you transform your product culture into a powerhouse of innovation and peak performance with our proven strategies.
You can find all of their resources at productand.com. That's productand.ot.com. Stop wasting your product potential.
Until next time.